A political showdown was unfolding live, with two powerful voices clashing on national TV. One made a bold move, trying to corner their opponent, expecting a quick victory. But what happened next left the audience stunned. In a shocking twist, the person on the receiving end didn't just defend their position, they launched an unexpected counterattack that took everyone by surprise. What was supposed to be a challenge turned into a game changer. What exactly happened? Stay tuned to find out how one decisive move turned the tables completely. In politics, moments of tension are common, especially when voices from opposite sides come face to face. One such moment happened when a high-profile political figure, known for their influence in leadership circles, decided to challenge a young, conservative voice who had been gaining ground in recent months. This wasn't a casual exchange or a friendly disagreement. It was a calculated move made in a very public setting. The challenger likely believed their experience, reputation, and speaking style would be enough to gain control of the situation and steer the conversation in their favor. The challenge took place in front of cameras and an audience that was already tuned in to hear differing viewpoints. The timing of the challenge seemed deliberate. It happened when the conservative voice was speaking about core political issues, topics that affect millions of people and shape national debates. The interruption didn't come as a simple question. It came as a push, aimed at exposing weakness or creating confusion. This type of move is not unusual in the political world. Often, established figures will use moments like these to assert dominance, test their opponents, or try to take away the spotlight. The conservative speaker, however, had already shown signs of growing influence. In recent months, they had become a strong communicator, known for direct messaging and a clear understanding of their political position. As they began sharing their views on issues like freedom, economic responsibility, and national identity, the challenge came quickly. It was framed in a way that suggested doubt about the speaker's knowledge or ability to lead. It was a tactic used to make the audience question whether this rising voice was ready for the big stage. What made the moment important was how it revealed the deeper layers of political communication. Challenges like these are rarely personal. They are often about control. In a debate, whoever controls the tone often controls the message. When someone with high status challenges someone younger or newer, the goal can be to shift attention away, shake their confidence, or change the focus of the discussion entirely. This is why being prepared, focused, and aware is so important in live political settings. The moment also showed how different generations or styles can clash. The challenger came from a more traditional political background, often relying on long speeches, structured debate formats, and historical talking points. The person being challenged, however, represented a new wave of political voices, more media-savvy, quick with responses, and skilled in communicating directly with both live and online audiences. This clash of styles made the interaction even more intense. One side was using old rules while the other was playing a faster and sharper game. Observers noticed how the conservative speaker remained calm during the interruption. They didn't rush to answer. They didn't look rattled. This was a sign of someone who had prepared for this exact type of pressure. When political figures challenge rising voices, they often expect nervous reactions or mistakes. But this speaker didn't fall into that trap. Instead, their body language, tone, and timing suggested confidence. That choice, to stay calm and wait, made the moment even more interesting. The challenge also revealed a deeper message, that political leadership is not just about age or rank. It's about ideas, clarity, and the ability to speak when it matters. Many people watching could see that the goal of the challenge was to create doubt. But when doubt is met with calm strength, it can backfire. The person trying to lead the conversation can quickly lose control if the audience senses that their challenge was more about ego than truth. In this situation, the audience picked up on the shift. People watching, whether in the room or online, started to talk more about the person who stayed calm, not the one who tried to take control. This kind of shift is important in politics. It reminds everyone that power can be temporary and influence can change in a single moment. When someone tries to challenge and fails, it doesn't just affect that one event. It affects how people view both individuals moving forward. The scene also became an example for students of political science and media. It showed how debates are not only about content but also about presence. Words matter, but so does timing, posture, and expression. A challenge can either build your case or reveal your weakness. In this case, it revealed how strength is not always in the person who speaks first or loudest, but in the one who listens, waits, and responds with clarity. In politics, strategy plays a key role in every public exchange. When a well-known figure decides to challenge someone who is gaining momentum, the goal is not always to ask honest questions or seek clarity. Sometimes the purpose is much deeper. It can be about damaging someone's credibility in front of a larger audience. This is often done with calculated timing, using the power of the spotlight to put the other person in a difficult position. The tactic usually appears during debates, interviews, or panel discussions, where tension is already high and the audience is paying close attention. During one such moment, a powerful figure attempted to do just that. The setting was structured to look like a conversation, but the intent behind the challenge suggested something more deliberate. It wasn't just a disagreement, it was a move designed to cast doubt. The words were framed to make the opposing voice look unsure or unqualified. The way the question was asked, the tone used, and the body language all pointed to a strategic effort to take control of the moment and shake the other person's position. This kind of approach is common in political communication. Experienced leaders often use their status to guide the direction of a conversation. They may interrupt, use sarcasm, or raise questions that are difficult to answer quickly. These actions can confuse or frustrate a less experienced opponent. The goal is to create pressure, hoping the person being challenged will respond poorly. Even a small mistake, like hesitating or using the wrong word, can be used to weaken their argument or make the audience question their knowledge. However, this strategy depends on one main idea, that the person being challenged is not fully prepared. If the person targeted by this kind of move is ready, the strategy can fail. But in this case, the challenge seemed carefully designed to be disruptive. It aimed to shift the focus from the topic being discussed to the personality or background of the opponent. Instead of debating the issue at hand, the attention was directed at the speaker's credibility. That is a classic move when someone wants to win a moment by attacking the person instead of the idea. This approach can be very effective if the audience is not paying close attention. A well-timed interruption or a clever remark can make one speaker look stronger, even if their argument is weak. That's why it's so important for people in the public eye to recognize when these tactics are being used against them. In this situation, the strategy was clear. Raise doubts, disrupt the flow, and make the rising voice appear less confident. But what made this situation unique was the way the targeted speaker responded. Instead of getting emotional or thrown off balance, they held their ground. They didn't let the pressure shake their message. They continued to speak with purpose, refusing to be drawn into a personal back and forth. That response alone showed that the strategy had not worked as intended. When someone remains focused during a clear attempt to undermine them, it often has the opposite effect. It can make the challenger appear insecure or even aggressive. The entire scene became a lesson in how political games are played. People watching could see that the challenge wasn't really about facts or policy. It was about power and control. And that kind of move, when exposed, can lead to a loss of respect rather than a gain in influence. Once it becomes clear that a question was designed not to learn but to attack, the audience begins to see through it. Viewers start to think more deeply about why the challenge was made and what it was meant to do. This moment also showed the danger of underestimating an opponent. Just because someone is younger, newer, or less known doesn't mean they're unprepared. In fact, newer voices often study these situations in advance and know exactly what to expect. That preparation gives them strength when others try to test them. In this case, the speaker's calm reaction proved that they saw the challenge coming and were ready to face it without backing down. The strategy of trying to discredit someone only works if the person accepts the frame of the question. But when someone chooses not to accept that frame, they take back control. That is what happened here. The attempted challenge became a lesson in how not to handle rising voices. It showed that strategy without substance can fall apart quickly, especially when the person on the receiving end is clear, steady, and focused. The lesson was simple but powerful. Trying to weaken someone through pressure only works if they let it. In politics, a strong response can sometimes carry more weight than the original challenge itself. This is especially true in moments when someone tries to disrupt or destabilize a conversation. When a public figure is faced with an aggressive move, how they react can either diffuse the tension or escalate it. In one particular instance, what seemed like a straightforward challenge quickly turned into a moment of great significance. As the response wasn't just defensive, it was a forceful counter that shifted the dynamics of the entire interaction. The moment began with a challenge that was intended to throw off the balance of the conversation. The person making the challenge likely thought they could overpower their opponent with sharp words or an unexpected move, assuming that the response would either falter or be weak. But what they did not expect was that the person being challenged would not only hold their ground but would respond with such strength that the situation flipped entirely. The power of the response was not in loudness or aggression, but in how it quickly and decisively took the conversation in an entirely new direction. This shift is critical in understanding how public figures engage in debates or high-pressure discussions. Often, the pressure from an attack can make someone respond in a way that weakens their position or causes them to lose their composure. This was exactly what the challenger might have expected: a quick retreat or a defensive posture that would make their opponent look uncertain or vulnerable. However, the response was different. It was calm, measured, and confident, creating an immediate contrast to the earlier attack. Instead of taking the bait or being shaken by the challenge, the speaker responded with clarity and authority. The timing was impeccable, and the substance of the answer not only addressed the challenge but highlighted a deeper issue at hand. What made this response even more significant was the manner in which it was delivered. The person did not rush to answer or get caught up in the heat of the moment. Instead, they took a moment to compose themselves, ensuring that their answer was both thoughtful and impactful. The calmness with which the response was delivered spoke volumes. In situations like these, the ability to stay composed under pressure is often the difference between maintaining control and losing the moment entirely. When someone responds with such clarity and composure, it becomes clear to the audience that they are in control of the situation, not the person making the challenge. This is where the true power of the response lies. It didn't just neutralize the challenge. It turned the tables. The audience, who had been watching closely, could see the difference between the original challenge and the subsequent reply. What was meant to be a moment of weakness quickly became a demonstration of strength. It was a reminder of how important it is to stay focused on the issues, regardless of attempts to derail the conversation. By addressing the challenge head-on with such a strong, calm response, the speaker not only defended their position, but also displayed a level of authority that made it clear they were not easily swayed or distracted. In the realm of public discourse, such responses are often remembered far more than the original attacks. A quick-witted or forceful reply can transform a potentially damaging moment into a victory. This is especially true when the response is rooted in the truth and is articulated with confidence. It shows the audience that, despite the challenge, the speaker remains firmly grounded in their beliefs. In this case, the challenge had been intended to create doubt, but the powerful response only reinforced the credibility and message of the one being challenged. This shift in dynamics is often a turning point in debates or discussions. While the challenger may have initially thought they were in control of the narrative, the response not only put them on the defensive, but also reinforced the strength of the person who had been targeted. When a challenge fails to have the intended effect, it forces those watching to reconsider the motivations behind the attack. Was it genuinely about the issue, or was it an attempt to undermine credibility for the sake of gaining an upper hand? In this case, the powerful response made it clear that the latter was true. The challenger's strategy had failed, and the person who had been questioned emerged not only unscathed, but stronger than before. What this moment highlights is the importance of preparation and emotional intelligence in high-stakes situations. Politics, especially in the public eye, often involves moments where one's composure is tested. The ability to react strategically and without haste is crucial. A defensive answer may make the challenger feel victorious in the short term, but a strong, well-timed counterattack can turn the tide entirely. This moment became a textbook example of how to handle challenges with grace and effectiveness, proving that strength does not always need to be loud or aggressive to be effective. In the aftermath of this interaction, the response was dissected, analyzed, and discussed widely. The audience and commentators alike were impressed not just by the words spoken, but by the way the situation was handled. The response was not only a defense, it was a declaration of confidence and resolve, showing that no challenge could easily derail the conversation or the position being argued. It was a lesson in the power of calm, the strength of composure, and the effectiveness of a well-timed, well-delivered response. When a moment of conflict unfolds in the public eye, the consequences can ripple far beyond the immediate exchange. In many cases, a single interaction can spark a larger conversation, affecting not just the individuals involved, but also shaping the public's perception of both the challenger and the one being challenged. This is especially true when the response to an attack is so strong that it catches everyone by surprise, shifting the focus and capturing the attention of not just the immediate audience, but the broader media and political world. In this particular instance, what started as a simple challenge quickly turned into a massive moment that reverberated across news platforms and social media. The challenger, likely expecting a quick victory or a stumble from the person being questioned, had not anticipated such a sharp counteraction. The reaction to the challenge was not just a simple rebuttal, it was something that took the audience off guard. Instead of backing down or getting defensive, the response was calculated and impactful, making a lasting impression on everyone watching. This shift in dynamics had a profound effect. In political discussions, public figures often rely on the narrative that they can control the direction of a conversation. They assume that if they attack or question someone, that person will either falter or become distracted, allowing them to regain control. However, when the person being challenged stands firm and responds with strength, the power balance changes. The challenger, who was initially positioned to dominate the conversation, suddenly found themselves on the defensive. The tables had turned, and now the focus was on them. The impact of such a moment is not limited to just the immediate exchange. When something like this happens, it often becomes a talking point, discussed widely across media platforms. News outlets and social media pick up on the dramatic shift in the conversation, analyzing the event from every angle. What was once thought to be a simple attempt at undermining someone's credibility now became a story in its own right, with analysts and commentators eager to dissect the exchange. This broad coverage amplifies the moment, turning it into a defining event for the individuals involved. For those who witnessed the moment live, it was a clear demonstration of how the power of a single response can change the entire trajectory of a conversation. The strength and impact of the reply were so powerful that it overshadowed the original challenge. It became clear that the individual being targeted was not just defending their position, but also taking back control of the narrative. This was no longer just about the initial issue at hand. It had become a battle of wills, and the person who had been attacked was showing the world that they were more than capable of holding their ground. This shift in focus also had a psychological effect on the audience. When one party is clearly dominant, it often causes people to rally around them, either because they feel sympathy for the underdog or because they respect the ability to handle pressure. In this case, the audience was able to see how someone can stand tall in the face of an aggressive challenge and turn the tide in their favor. This kind of reaction is often admired, as it demonstrates the ability to remain composed and strong, even when the odds seem stacked against you. The situation also highlighted the importance of emotional intelligence in high-stakes conversations. It is easy to react impulsively when faced with a challenge, especially in the heat of the moment. But what made this response so effective was the measured, deliberate way it was delivered. It wasn't rushed or reactive. It was thoughtful and calculated. In political exchanges where emotions can easily cloud judgment, This kind of emotional control is invaluable. It shows that the person who can stay calm, think clearly, and respond strategically is the one who truly controls the conversation. In public discourse, particularly in political exchanges, moments of challenge can often become defining points in a conversation. When one figure attempts to undermine another, it's not just the content of the challenge that matters, but how the target responds. A successful counter can completely reshape the outcome of the exchange, turning a potential loss into a significant victory. In this instance, the response wasn't merely a rebuttal, it became an opportunity to take control of the moment and, in doing so, shift the public narrative in their favor. What started as a confrontation quickly turned into a battle of wills. The challenger, likely thinking they had found a weak spot, believed they could create doubt or expose a flaw in their opponent's position. However, the response they received was not what they expected. Instead of a defensive or uncertain reply, the person being challenged responded with an unexpected force. The question that had been designed to create doubt instead became a platform for reinforcing their credibility and standing. The power of this response lay not just in its substance, but in its delivery. At a moment when many might have been rattled or caught off guard, the individual remained calm, collected, and confident. This type of composure is key in high-stakes discussions. The ability to stay grounded, especially when the stakes are high, signals strength and control. Rather than responding hastily or allowing emotions to cloud judgment, the reply was thoughtful and deliberate, effectively neutralizing the challenge while staying focused on the issues at hand. What made this moment even more significant was how it altered the perception of the entire interaction. Instead of a simple debate over policy or ideas, the dynamic shifted into a larger conversation about the strength of character and the ability to handle pressure. The person who had been challenged did not simply counter the attack. They turned the challenge into an opportunity to showcase their leadership, poise, and readiness to stand firm against adversity. The broader impact of such a response is profound. In public discussions, especially those involving influential figures, the audience is constantly evaluating more than just the facts. They are assessing the person's ability to manage conflict, their emotional intelligence, and their overall capacity to stay focused in moments of tension. In this case, the response was a powerful reminder that one's ability to handle pressure can define how the public perceives them. When a figure remains unshaken under attack, it not only strengthens their position in that specific conversation, but also builds their reputation as someone capable of handling more significant challenges in the future. The strategic importance of such a reply is also evident in its ripple effect. What might have been a fleeting moment of tension quickly turned into a defining moment of strength. Media outlets and commentators began to pick up on the exchange, analyzing it from multiple angles. The story moved beyond the original question or challenge and became a larger narrative about how to effectively deal with opposition. This, in turn, garnered attention and respect, as it highlighted the individual's ability to handle not just the content of the conversation, but the dynamics of public conflict itself. This dynamic also emphasizes the importance of strategic thinking in public discourse. Every exchange is an opportunity to not only present one's ideas, but also to showcase personal qualities such as leadership, resilience, and the ability to remain focused. In this case, the response wasn't simply about defending a position. It was about demonstrating strength in the face of an attempt to weaken it. By staying composed and delivering a clear, effective counter, the individual conveyed not only mastery over the issue at hand, but also an understanding of how to navigate public pressure. Additionally, the response showed a deep understanding of the moment's significance. It wasn't just about answering the challenge, it was about seizing the opportunity to frame the conversation on their own terms. Rather than allowing the challenger to dictate the flow, the response turned the focus back to the issues that mattered, showcasing a level of control and strategic awareness. This awareness of the larger picture, of how a single moment can shape future discussions, was crucial in transforming what could have been a setback into a powerful display of leadership. Furthermore, the ability to maintain composure during such an exchange highlights a key element in political discourse: the need for emotional control. In a situation where emotions run high, especially when under attack, the temptation to react impulsively can be overwhelming. However, those who are able to remain calm and deliberate often gain an advantage. In this case, the individual who responded so effectively demonstrated a high level of emotional intelligence, using the moment to showcase their ability to think clearly and strategically in the face of pressure. This exchange also serves as a reminder of how easily the dynamics of a conversation can shift. What began as a challenge designed to weaken someone's position turned into an unexpected showcase of strength. It illustrates that how one handles a challenge can be just as important as the arguments they present. In many cases, the way a person responds to adversity can define their public persona more than the content of their message. By staying steady and focused, the individual demonstrated that resilience and composure are as vital to success as knowledge and preparation.